The council chamber was filled with the sounds of panic. Representatives from 100 worlds spoke at once, their voices rising in fear and desperation. Some were crying. Others were shouting. All of them were terrified. Ambassador Velthan stood in the center of the chamber, his blue skin pale with exhaustion. He had not slept in 3 days. How could he? His homeworld was dying. The Voidborn had reached the outer colonies of his system yesterday. In 2 days, maybe 3, they would reach his planet. His family was still there. Please, he shouted, trying to be heard over the chaos. We must do something. Anything. High Arbiter Zixcor clicked his mandibles together, the insectoid leader's way of calling for silence. The noise slowly died down. Thousands of eyes turned to look at him. We have tried everything, Zixcor said, his voice translated into 100 languages simultaneously. Our energy weapons feed them. They grow stronger with every shot we fire. Our missiles pass through them like they are made of smoke. Our biological weapons only help them adapt faster. Then what do? Someone screamed from the back. Just wait to die? Velthan took a deep breath. His hands were shaking. He had been thinking about this for days, ever since his people had sent their last distress call. There was one option left. One terrible, desperate option. We could ask Earth, he said quietly. The chamber erupted. Half the representatives started shouting immediately. The other half went silent with shock. Are you insane? A delegate from the Quarus system yelled. The humans are monsters. We quarantined them for a reason. He's right, another voice called out. Have you seen their entertainment? They make movies about war for fun. They celebrate violence. Velthan had seen the human transmissions. Everyone had. The Galactic Council had been monitoring Earth for 300 years, ever since they discovered the humans. What they saw terrified them. Humans came from a death world. Their planet tried to kill them every day with storms, earthquakes, diseases, and predators. Instead of dying, they thrived. They turned everything into a weapon. They fought each other constantly. Their entire history was written in blood. When the Council first made contact, they offered humanity a place in galactic society. But after seeing what humans were capable of, they changed their minds. Earth was too dangerous. Humanity was too violent, too unpredictable, too creative with destruction. So they quarantined the entire solar system. They put up satellites to watch the humans and told them to stay in their corner of space. For 3 centuries, humanity had remained locked away, and the galaxy felt safer for it. But now, everything had changed. The Voidborn have destroyed 12 systems in 6 months, Velthan said, his voice growing stronger. They have killed billions. Our best scientists cannot stop them. Our strongest fleets cannot slow them down. In 3 months, maybe less, they will reach the core worlds. What then? But the humans, someone started to say, are violent, yes. Velthan interrupted. They are aggressive and dangerous, and they scare us. But the Voidborn don't scare them. Nothing scares them. They laugh at death. They make games about fighting impossible enemies. Maybe that's exactly what we need. Zixcor was silent for a long moment. His compound eyes reflected the holographic displays showing the Voidborn advance. System after system turning dark. Billions of lives snuffed out like candles in the wind. If we contact Earth, Zixcor said slowly, we cannot control what happens next. The humans might refuse to help. They might demand a price we cannot pay. Or worse, they might help us defeat the Voidborn and then turn on us. We could be trading one apocalypse for another. My people are dying right now, Velthan said. His voice cracked. My family is on my homeworld. My children. If there is even a small chance the humans can help, I have to take it. We all have to take it. More voices rose in argument. The debate went on for hours. But as more distress signals came in, as more worlds went silent, the truth became clear. They had no choice. The vote was close, but it passed. They would contact Earth. The message was simple. It contained the coordinates of the nearest Voidborn attack and a time limit. They also included a brief explanation of what the Voidborn were and what they could do. Then they waited for a response. Commander Sarah Chun had been Earth's observer to the Galactic Council for 5 years. She sat in a small station at the edge of the Sol system, monitoring all communications. For 5 years, she had listened to the galaxy talk about humans like they were animals in a cage. When the message came through, she read it 3 times to make sure she understood correctly. Then she smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. She sent the message to Earth and waited for orders. The response came back in 20 minutes. Chun opened a channel to the Galactic Council. When Velfin's face appeared on the screen, he looked hopeful and terrified at the same time. "We received your message," Chun said calmly. "And?" Velfin asked. "What does Earth require? What payment do you demand?" Chun's smile grew colder. "We don't want payment. Send us the coordinates and the time limit." Velfin blinked in confusion. "But surely Earth wants something in return. Technology? Territory? An end to the quarantine?" "Send the coordinates," Chun repeated. "We'll discuss terms after we save your people." The transmission ended. Velfin stood in the empty council chamber, staring at the blank screen. He didn't know if he should feel relieved or more afraid. The humans had agreed to help. They asked for nothing in return. That should have been good news. So why did it feel like he had just opened a door to something terrible? High Armator Zixcor approached him. "What have we done?" The old insect whispered. "What we had to," Velfin replied. But his hands were still shaking. In the Sol system, alarms began to sound. Earth's military bases went to full alert. Orders flashed across 100 command centers. Ships that had been waiting in the dark for 300 years began to wake up. Humanity had been locked away for 3 centuries. They had been called monsters and feared by every civilization in the galaxy. They had been isolated, studied, and judged, and they had been preparing. Now the galaxy had called for help. And the monsters were about to answer. The observers stationed near Earth to monitor the quarantine watched, their sensors in growing horror. Energy signatures were spiking across the system. Things were moving in the dark. Big things. One observer, a young Threllan named Kixish, sent an urgent message back to the council. His voice shook as he spoke. "They're coming. The humans are mobilizing. I don't know what they've built, but it's bigger than anything we imagined. By the stars, what have we unleashed?" No one answered him, because deep down, they all knew they had unleashed the monsters. And now, they could only hope the monsters would fight for them instead of against them. The die was cast. The cage was opened. And humanity was going to war. Admiral Marcus Stone stood on the bridge of the TCNS Indomitable and looked out at the fleet assembling around him. 300 ships hung in the darkness of space, and more were coming. They had been building these vessels in secret for generations, hiding them in the asteroid belt behind the moons of Jupiter, in the deep cold beyond Pluto. "Status report," Stone said calmly. "All battle groups reporting ready, sir," his second officer replied. "Fleet composition: 87 warships, 93 support vessels, 72 converted civilian ships, and 48 specialized craft." Stone nodded. The civilian ships were volunteers. When Earth announced they were going to war, everyone wanted to join. Colony ships, mining platforms, research stations, they had all armed themselves and asked to fight. Because that's what humans did. When there was a fight, they ran toward it, not away. "Time to jump point?" Stone asked. 16 hours, sir." Stone turned to look at his crew. They were calm and focused. These men and women had trained their entire lives for this moment. Their parents had trained. Their grandparents had trained. For 300 years, Earth had been preparing for war. The galaxy thought they were quarantined as prisoners. They were wrong. Earth had turned the quarantine into the greatest military buildup in human history. While the aliens watched and judged them from afar, humans had been asking themselves one question. What if we have to fight our way out? All hands, Stone said into the shipwide communication system. This is the Admiral. Today, we leave the Sol system for the first time in 300 years. We're not going as explorers or diplomats. We're going as soldiers. The galaxy called us monsters. They locked us away because we scared them. And now they need those monsters to save them. He paused, looking around the bridge. Every face was focused on him. The Voidborn are unlike anything we've ever fought. They absorb energy. They don't have bodies like we understand them. They're fast, smart, and they've killed billions. But they've never fought humans before. They don't know what we're capable of. So we're going to show them. We're going to show the entire galaxy what happens when you back humanity into a corner and then ask for help. Are you ready? The response was immediate and deafening. Yes, sir. Then let's go to war. On Earth, Dr. Kenji Yamamoto sat in a laboratory deep beneath the surface. Around him, screens showed everything they knew about the Voidborn. It wasn't much, but it was enough. They absorb energy, he muttered to himself, making notes. Every time the aliens fire lasers or plasma weapons, the Voidborn gets stronger. They feed on it like we feed on food. His assistant, a young woman named Dr. Patel, nodded. So energy weapons are useless. What do we use instead? Yamamoto smiled. It was the smile of someone who had just solved a puzzle. We go backwards. We stop using energy weapons and go back to basics. Kinetic weapons. Physical projectiles. Things that work on momentum and mass, not energy. You mean guns? Dr. Patel asked. I mean everything. Railguns that use electromagnetic force to throw metal. Coil guns. Chemical explosives. Even old-fashioned gunpowder if we need it. The Voidborn won't be able to absorb momentum. You can't eat a punch. Dr. Patel pulled up weapon specifications on her screen. The fleet is already equipped. Railguns on every ship. Kinetic missiles. Depleted uranium rounds. Tungsten penetrators. We've even loaded some ships with weapons from the 21st century. Ancient stuff that we kept in museums. Ancient, but effective, Yamamoto said. Sometimes the old ways work best. In another facility, Captain Ninkuro Kanko addressed her special operations team. 50 soldiers stood at attention before her. These weren't ordinary soldiers. They were enhanced with the best technology Earth could create. Faster reflexes. Stronger bodies. Better senses. They were the best humanity had to offer. Our mission is different from the fleet, Okonkwo said. While the Admiral fights the big battles, we're going to fight the small ones. We're going to study the Voidborn. Learn how they think. Find their weaknesses. And then we're going to exploit those weaknesses. One soldier raised his hand. Captain, how do we fight something that doesn't have a body? The same way we fight everything else, Okonkwo replied. We adapt. We improvise. We overcome. That's what makes us human. That's what makes us dangerous. She pulled up a hologram showing various weapons and equipment. We have electromagnetic pulse grenades to disrupt their cohesion. Quantum scramblers to interfere with their communication. Nanite weapons to attack them at the molecular level. And if none of that works, we'll figure something else out. Because that's what we do. The soldiers nodded. They were ready. Back at the quarantine perimeter, The alien observers watched in growing fear as the human fleet prepared to leave. Their sensors showed readings that didn't make sense. The human ships were massive, but they moved wrong. They accelerated too quickly. Their hulls didn't reflect light properly. They seemed to absorb scanner signals. And there were so many of them. Observer Kixish tried to count them. He gave up at 500. How did they build all this? He whispered. We've been watching them for 300 years. How did we miss this? His supervisor, an older alien named Vexstar, shook his head. We didn't miss it. We saw them building ships. We saw them testing weapons. We just thought they were being paranoid. We thought they were preparing to fight us. Weren't they? Kixish asked. Vexstar was silent for a long moment. Maybe, but I think they were preparing to fight everyone. That's what humans do. They prepare for the worst possible scenario, and then they prepare for something worse than that. The human fleet began to move. They didn't rush. They moved with the calm confidence of people who knew exactly what they were doing. One by one, the ships jumped to faster than light speed. Kixish sent a message to the Galactic Council. His hands shook as he typed. The human fleet has departed Sol System. Ship count: approximately 500 vessels. Weapons detected, primarily kinetic-based. Unknown weapon systems also present. Estimated time to arrival at combat zone: 6 hours. Recommend all civilian ships evacuate the area immediately. He paused, then added one more line. May the cosmos have mercy on the Voidborn. Because I don't think the humans will. Admiral Stone watched the stars blur past as the fleet traveled faster than light. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency. No one was nervous. No one was afraid. They had been born for this. Sir, his communications officer said, we're receiving multiple messages from Galactic Council ships near the combat zone. They want to know our battle plan. Stone smiled grimly. Tell them to stay out of our way. And tell their civilian ships to evacuate. Things are about to get messy. What about the Voidborn? His tactical officer asked. Do we know their exact position? We know enough, Stone replied. They're swarming the planet Thysis 7. 12 billion people down there. The local defense fleet is trying to evacuate them, but the Voidborn are cutting them off. He pulled up a tactical display showing the planet and the swarm surrounding it. The Voidborn appeared as a dark cloud, constantly shifting and moving. They were everywhere. Standard formation won't work here, Stone said. We need to hit them from multiple angles simultaneously. Confuse them. Make them think we're bigger than we are. His tactical officer grinned. Psychological warfare, sir? Exactly. We may not know if the Voidborn can think, but we're going to assume they can. And if they can think, we can scare them. The fleet dropped out of FDL space right on schedule. Ahead of them, the planet Thysis 7 burned. The Voidborn swarm covered it like a blanket, consuming everything. Defense ships exploded silently in the vacuum. Escape pods scattered in all directions. All ships, Stone commanded. Begin Operation Nightmare. Show these things what humans do best. Across the fleet, weapons powered up. But before they fired, something else happened. The human ships began to broadcast sounds. Terrible, horrifying sounds. Screams, wails, music designed to cause pain. Human voices chanting in unknown languages. The sound of war drums. The sound of grinding metal. The sound of things dying. The Voidborn swarm hesitated. For just a moment, they stopped moving. That moment was all the humans needed. Fire everything, Stone ordered, and the monsters of Earth went to war. Lieutenant Jack Seary gripped the armrests of his station as his ship shook violently. The defense fleet was dying around him. 30 seconds ago, they had 27 ships. Now, they had 14. The Voidborn were everywhere, passing through their hulls like ghosts, draining their power, consuming their crews. All weapons are offline. Someone screamed. They're feeding off our energy systems. The captain was shouting orders, but it didn't matter. Nothing they did made any difference. The Voidborn couldn't be stopped. Then everything changed. The human fleet appeared without warning. One moment the space around Isis the Seventh was empty except for dying ships. The next moment, 500 human vessels materialized like they had been there all along. And then the humans started, broadcasting sounds. Jack Siri had never heard anything like it. His species didn't have ears like humans did, but his ship's audio sensors translated the sounds into sensations he could understand. What he felt made his blood run cold. It was the sound of suffering, of rage, of violence distilled into audio form. The humans were weaponizing noise itself. What are they doing? His captain whispered. The Voidborn swarm stopped advancing. The dark cloud of entities that had been steadily consuming everything suddenly went still. It was like they were listening. Or maybe they were afraid. Jack Siri had studied the Voidborn for months. They had never stopped before. They had never hesitated. But they were hesitating now. The humans are firing. His tactical officer shouted. Jack Siri watched his sensors in disbelief. The human weapons weren't energy-based. They were throwing physical objects. Huge pieces of metal moving at impossible speeds. The projectiles slammed into the Voidborn swarm. And for the first time since this nightmare began, the Voidborn took damage. The dark entities tried to phase through the projectiles like they had done with everything else. Some succeeded, but others didn't. The human rounds were doing something different. They were fragmenting, breaking apart into thousands of smaller pieces. Each piece was coated with something that burned, even in the vacuum of space. The Voidborn swarm convulsed. Parts of it broke away, trying to escape. But the humans had anticipated that. More ships appeared on the flanks, cutting off the retreat. The human fleet wasn't just attacking. They were hunting. Open a channel to the human flagship. Jack Siri's captain ordered. A moment later, a human face appeared on the screen. Admiral Stone looked calm, like he was discussing the weather instead of commanding a battle. This is Captain Vrylon of the Isis Defense Force, Jack Siri's captain said quickly. We have 12 billion civilians on the planet below. Can you protect the evacuation corridors? Stone nodded once. Evacuation corridor Alpha is being cleared now. Get your people out. We'll handle the rest. The transmission ended. Jack Siri watched in amazement as human ships moved to protect the evacuation routes. They formed a wall between the planet and the Voidborn, firing constantly. The projectiles never stopped. The humans seemed to have unlimited ammunition, but that wasn't the strangest part. On the surface of Isis 7, something else was happening. Jack Siri's sensors detected small craft landing in the middle of the Voidborn swarm. Human soldiers were deploying directly into the combat zone. They're insane, someone on the bridge muttered. No one can survive down there. But the humans weren't just surviving. They were thriving. Captain Neru Okonkwo hit the ground running. Her team of 50 operators spread out immediately, each one moving with practiced precision. They wore armor that seemed to absorb the Voidborn's attacks, and they carried weapons that made the air itself scream. Wraith Squad, sound off, Okonkwo commanded. One by one, her team reported in. All 50 accounted for. All 50 ready. Remember the mission, Okonkwo said. We're not here to kill them all. We're here to learn. Watch how they move. Watch how they communicate. Find the patterns. The Voidborn swarmed around them, dark shapes that flickered in and out of existence. They tried to drain the soldiers' energy, but the human armor redirected it harmlessly into the ground. Sergeant Kim, One of Okonkwo's best operators raised his scanner. "Captain, I'm detecting quantum fluctuations. The Voidborn are communicating through entanglement." Okonkwo smiled inside her helmet. "Can we disrupt it?" "Working on it now." Kim pulled a small device from his pack and activated it. The electromagnetic pulse it generated was carefully tuned. Within seconds, the Voidborn around them began moving erratically. They bumped into each other. Their coordination fell apart. "We just jammed their communications," Kim reported. "The effect is localized, but it works." "Send that data to Fleet Command," Okonkwo ordered. "And keep testing. I want to know everything about these things." The team moved deeper into the swarm, collecting data with every step. They discovered that the Voidborn had different types: scouts, warriors, harvesters. They learned that the entities communicated in pulses, creating a kind of hive mind. They found weak points in their cohesion, and they found something else. Something unexpected. "Captain," one of her soldiers called out. "You need to see this." Okonkwo made her way to his position. He was scanning a cluster of Voidborn that had separated from the main swarm. They were moving strangely, almost like they were injured. "These ones are different," the soldier explained. "They're not attacking. They're just drifting." Okonkwo studied them carefully. "They're dying. Or whatever passes for dying when you're made of energy. Mark their position and keep monitoring. I want to know what's killing them." High above, Admiral Stone watched the battle unfold on his tactical display. The Voidborn were adapting quickly, but not quickly enough. Every time they changed their tactics, the humans changed faster. "Sir, we're detecting something unusual," his science officer reported. "The Voidborn are trying to communicate with us." Stone raised an eyebrow. "Communicate how?" "They're modulating quantum frequencies. It's crude, but it's definitely intentional. I think they're trying to talk." "What are they saying?" The science officer looked uncomfortable. "I'm not sure. The translation matrix is having trouble. But I think it's a question. They're asking, 'What are you?'" Stone considered this for a moment. Then he smiled coldly. "Tell them we're humans. And tell them we're just getting started." The battle continued for 6 hours. The human fleet never stopped firing. They used weapons the Voidborn had never encountered. Railguns that fired rounds at a fraction of light speed. Missiles filled with nanites that attacked matter at the quantum level. Drones that learned and adapted in real time. But the most effective weapon was something simpler: fear. Voidborn had consumed galaxies. They had destroyed civilizations. They had never been stopped. And they had certainly never been hunted until now. Every time a cluster of Voidborn tried to retreat, human ships were waiting. Every time they adapted to one weapon, the humans switched to another. Every time they thought they understood the pattern, the humans changed it. Jack Siri watched it all from his ship. He was supposed to be coordinating the evacuation, but he couldn't look away from the tactical display. The humans were fighting like nothing he had ever seen. They weren't just defending. They weren't just attacking. They were systematically dismantling the Voidborn swarm with the precision of surgeons and the ruthlessness of predators. "They're not even using their full strength," his tactical officer whispered. "They're testing the Voidborn, learning. This isn't a battle for them. It's an experiment." Jack Siri felt a chill run through him. The galaxy had called Earth for help because they needed monsters to fight monsters. But watching the humans work, he realized something terrifying. The Voidborn were monsters of nature. They consumed because that's what they were designed to do. But humans? Humans were monsters by choice. They had spent their entire existence fighting each other, learning every possible way to kill and destroy. They had turned warfare into an art form, and now they were turning that art on the Voidborn. "Evacuation is complete," someone reported. All civilian ships are clear. Admiral Stone received a confirmation and nodded. Good. Now we can stop holding back. All ships, release weapon safeties. Authorization code Stone Alpha 7. Let's show them what we brought. Across the fleet, new weapons powered up. Things the humans hadn't used yet. Things they had been saving. Jack series sensors detected massive energy buildups on the human ships. What are they doing? He asked. No one answered. Because a moment later, the human fleet opened fire with weapons that bent physics itself. Reality warped around the voidborn swarm. Space twisted. Time stuttered. The entities that had consumed entire star systems began to dissolve, and in the center of it all, Admiral Stone watched with cold satisfaction. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," he said quietly. "Tell them Thys 7 is secure. Tell them we're moving to the next target. And tell them to stop calling us monsters." He paused, then added with a grim smile, "We prefer the term problem solvers." 3 weeks had passed since the human fleet entered the war. In that time, they had liberated 8 star systems and destroyed more voidborn than the entire Galactic Council had managed in 6 months. The news should have made everyone happy. Instead, the Council was terrified. Ambassador Velthan watched the latest battle reports with growing unease. The humans weren't just winning. They were winning too easily. Too efficiently. Too perfectly. How many voidborn did we lose at the Battle of Krelix Station? High Arbiter Zixcor asked during the emergency session. Estimated 70,000 entities destroyed, a military advisor reported. Human casualties, 0. Not a single ship damaged. The council chamber fell silent. Velthan's daughter, Scholar Maishan, had been studying human tactics from her observation post. She had requested permission to attend the council meeting, and now she stood to speak. "I think I understand what the humans are doing," she said quietly. "They're not just fighting the voidborn. They're studying them. Every battle gives them more data. Every engagement teaches them something new. They're treating this war like a science experiment." "That should be good news," someone said. "Should be," Maishan agreed. "But I've been reviewing Earth's history. Do you know what humans do when they solve a problem? They weaponize the solution. They're not just learning how to defeat the voidborn. They're learning how to become better at warfare in general." She pulled up a display showing human weapon development over the past 3 weeks. "Look at this. Every day, they deploy new weapons, new tactics, new technologies. They're innovating faster than any species we've ever recorded. And they're doing it while fighting a war." Velthan studied the data. She was right. The humans had started the war using kinetic weapons and basic tactics. Now they were using things the Council didn't have names for. Quantum disruptors. Entropy accelerators. Weapons that attacked reality itself. Where did they get this technology? Zixcor demanded. "They invented it," Maishan said. "In 3 weeks. That's what makes them dangerous. They don't just adapt. They evolve." On a ship designated only as Synthesis Station, Colonel Yuki Tanaka sat in a room filled with screens. She was the head of Earth's Psychological Warfare Division, and her job was to get inside the Voidborn's collective mind, if they had one. "Play the latest broadcast," she ordered. The screens lit up with patterns of light and sound. To a human, it looked like random noise. But the patterns were carefully designed. Mathematical sequences that created discomfort. Frequencies that disrupted quantum coherence. Visual patterns that triggered recognition responses in any form of intelligence. How are the Voidborn responding? Tanaka asked. Her assistant pulled up sensor data. "They're retreating from any area where we broadcast. Some clusters have even fragmented. It's like they're arguing with each other." Tanaka smiled. "Good. Fear is a universal language. Even hive minds can learn to be afraid. She had been studying the Voidborn for weeks, analyzing every scrap of data the fleet collected. She had discovered something important. The Voidborn weren't just mindless consumers. They were intelligent. They made decisions. They had priorities, and anything that could make decisions could be manipulated. Prepare the next phase, Tanaka said. I want to broadcast directly into their core territory. Make them hear us. Make them know we're coming. But the most concerning development was happening in Earth's digital realm. The synthesis had awakened. The synthesis was humanity's answer to artificial intelligence. Instead of creating AI and then trying to control it, humans had merged with it. They had uploaded their greatest minds into a digital collective that thought in dimensions beyond normal space thought, and now the synthesis was fighting a war in spaces the Voidborn didn't know existed. May single quotes Shan had detected the synthesis's activities by accident. She was monitoring quantum communications when she noticed impossible patterns. Data flowing in directions that didn't exist. Information being processed in dimensions that shouldn't be accessible. The humans have an eye fighting the Voidborn, she reported to the council. But not like our AI. This is something different. It's like they've created a digital version of the Voidborn's hive mind, but smarter, faster, more aggressive. Can we do the same? Someone asked. May single quotes. Shan shook her head. We tried to create AI 3,000 years ago. It almost destroyed us. We banned the research. But humans didn't just create AI. They became part of it. They merged with it. I don't even know how that's possible. The truth was even stranger than she knew. The synthesis was fighting the Voidborn in quantum space, corrupting their communications, introducing chaos into their hive coordination. Every time the Voidborn tried to organize, the synthesis was there, disrupting, confusing, leading them into traps, and the Voidborn were starting to realize they were being hunted by something they couldn't see. Admiral Stone received a message from Scholar Mai Shen requesting a meeting. He agreed, curious about what the young alien wanted. When her face appeared on his screen, she looked exhausted. Admiral, she said carefully, I need to ask you something. When did Earth start preparing for the Voidborn? Stone considered the question. About 300 years ago. Why? Mai Shen's eyes widened. But you didn't know about the Voidborn 300 years ago. They only arrived 6 months ago. We didn't know about them specifically, Stone admitted. But we knew something like them would come eventually. The universe is a dangerous place. So we prepared. For 300 years? Mai Shen asked. You spent 300 years preparing for a threat you didn't know existed? Stone nodded. That's what humans do. We prepare for the worst. And then we prepare for something worse than that. Your people quarantined us. You gave us 300 years with nothing to do, but think about how we'd fight our way out if we needed to. This is the result. Mai Shen was quiet for a moment. The Council is afraid, Admiral. You're winning too easily. You're advancing too quickly. Your technology is developing too fast. They're starting to wonder what happens when the Voidborn are defeated. Are they afraid we'll turn on them? Stone asked. Yes. Stone leaned back in his chair. Scholar, I'm going to tell you something important. Humans have been fighting each other for our entire existence. We've had wars that lasted hundreds of years. We've built weapons that could destroy our own planet. We've done terrible things to each other. That's not reassuring, Mai Shen said. I'm not finished, Stone continued. We've done all those terrible things. But we also learned from them. We learned that endless war doesn't benefit anyone. We learned that cooperation is stronger than conquest. We learned to control our violent impulses. That's what makes us dangerous. Not our weapons. Not our tactics. The fact that we know exactly how terrible we can be, and we choose not to be. But you're still monsters, Mycian whispered. Yes, Stone agreed. We're still monsters. But we're monsters who know when to stop. Can you say the same about the Voidborn? Before Mycian could answer, alarms started blaring across the communication channel. Admiral, his tactical officer shouted. We're detecting a massive Voidborn force. They're heading for Earth. Stone's expression went cold. How many? Over 1 million entities, sir. It's their entire reserve force. They're going straight for the Sol system. Mycian gasped. They're trying to cut off the head. If they destroy Earth, the human fleet will collapse. Stone stood up. No. If they attack Earth, they'll learn why humans don't fear extinction. He turned to his crew. Get me a line to Earth Defense Command. And somebody wake up the moon. Mycian frowned. Wake up the moon? What does that mean? Stone's smile was terrifying. You're about to find out why you don't attack a Deathworld's nest. Especially not one that's had 300 years to fortify. The Voidborn swarm entered the Sol system like a dark tide, ready to consume humanity's homeworld. They had learned that the human fleet was dangerous. So they would destroy the source. They entered the system expecting resistance. What they got was annihilation. The first thing that happened was the quarantine satellites activated. Not as monitors, but as weapons. Hundreds of platforms that had been watching Earth for 3 centuries suddenly revealed their true purpose. They lit up the Voidborn swarm with every type of radiation humans had discovered. Then the moon opened. Massive doors appeared on the lunar surface. And from inside emerged the weapons humanity had been building in secret. Mass driver installations that threw projectiles the size of buildings. Missile batteries that could saturate entire sectors of space. Energy weapons that were only used for home defense because they required too much power. Mars joined the fight next. The Red Planet launched swarms of drones, millions of them, each one equipped with basic AI and suicide payloads. Even Earth's civilian stations started firing. Private ships, research platforms, orbital factories. Everything that could mount a weapon did. And in the center of it all, Earth itself waited. The planet that had produced humanity. The Death World that had forged monsters. The Voidborn had made a mistake. They thought Earth would be vulnerable. They thought humans would be afraid. They were wrong. 1 million Voidborn entities entered the Sol system. 3 hours later, none of them left. Mycian watched the battle from her observation post, her hands trembling. The readings her sensors showed couldn't be real, but they were. She sent a message to the Galactic Council. Her voice shook as she spoke. The Voidborn attacked Earth. They're 4 months after Earth joined the war. The Voidborn were in full retreat. They had lost 70% of their forces. Their advance had stopped. For the first time in their existence, they were running away. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, studying the latest intelligence reports. Something was wrong. The Voidborn weren't just retreating randomly. They were moving toward something, gathering in one location deep in uncharted space. Send a reconnaissance team, he ordered. I want to know what they're doing. 3 days later, the reconnaissance team returned with information that changed everything. Captain Okonkwo delivered the report personally. Sir, we found the source. There's a massive entity at the center of the Voidborn swarm. We're calling it the Mother Entity. It's different from the others. Bigger, more complex. And sir, it's trying to communicate. Communicate about what? Stone asked. We're not completely sure. But based on the quantum patterns we detected, we think it's afraid. Stone sat down slowly. The Voidborn are afraid? Of us? Yes, sir. And there's more. Dr. Yamamoto analyzed the data. He thinks the Voidborn aren't from this galaxy. They're refugees from somewhere else. Their home galaxy died, and they came here looking for energy to survive. Stone was quiet for a long moment. So they're not conquerors. They're desperate. Exactly. They're starving. That's why they consume everything. They're trying to stay alive. Stone called an emergency meeting with Earth's leadership. President Amara Osei appeared on the screen, along with representatives from every major government and military division. What you're telling me, President Osei said carefully, is that we've been fighting refugees? Dangerous refugees, Stone clarified. They've killed billions, destroyed entire civilizations. But yes, at their core, they're running from something worse. Dr. Yamamoto joined the meeting. Madam President, I've been studying voidborn biology. They're dying. Their energy patterns are degrading. In another year, maybe two, they would have collapsed on their own. They attacked the galaxy out of desperation, not malice. President Osei looked around at her advisors. What are our options? We can finish them, Stone said. One more major offensive, and the Voidborn will be extinct. Or we can try something else. What else is there? We can try to save them. The Galactic Council's reaction was immediate and furious. Ambassador Velthan contacted Earth directly, his face red with anger. You want to save the Voidborn? He shouted. They killed my people. They destroyed entire worlds. And you want to help them? President Osei faced him calmly. Yes, because we understand what it means to be desperate. Humans have done terrible things throughout our history when we were desperate. We fought wars, committed atrocities, destroyed our own environment. We know what desperation can make you do. But they're monsters. So are we, Osei replied quietly. That's why you called us, remember? You wanted monsters to fight monsters. Well, now we're telling you what monsters can do besides fight. We can choose mercy. Velthan was speechless. Here's what we're proposing, Osei continued. We create containment zones for the Voidborn. We provide them with artificial energy sources so they don't need to consume living worlds. We monitor them, control them, but we let them live. That's insane, Velthan said. It's too dangerous. More dangerous than letting them continue to attack? Osei asked. More dangerous than hunting them to extinction and proving that we're just as monstrous as you feared? We have a chance here to show the galaxy something important. That there's a difference between being capable of violence and choosing violence. High Arbiter Zixcor joined the conversation. And if they betray you? If they escape containment? President Osei's expression hardened. Then we finish what we started. But we give them a chance first. Because that's what separates us from actual monsters. The ability to choose mercy when we have the power to choose destruction. The council debated for 3 days. In the end, they agreed to let Earth try. But they insisted on maintaining military forces nearby. Just in case. Admiral Stone was given a new mission. Make contact with the mother entity and negotiate a surrender. He took a single ship deep into Voidborn territory. Captain Okonkwo accompanied him, along with Dr. Yamamoto and a small diplomatic team. The mother entity was waiting for them. It was massive, filling the view screen like a dark sun. Around it, millions of Voidborn entities swirled protectively. Open a quantum channel, Stone ordered. Let's see if we can talk to this thing. Dr. Yamamoto established the connection. At first, there was only noise. Then, slowly, patterns emerged. The synthesis helped translate them into something humans could understand. The mother entity's communication was simple. Why do you hunt us? Stone thought carefully before responding. Because you were killing innocent people. But we've learned something about you. You're refugees. You're starving. So I have a question for you. Why didn't you ask for help? The mother entity's response took longer this time. We do not know how to ask. We only know how to take. We have consumed for so long, we forgot there was another way. Then let us show you another way. Stone said. The negotiation took hours. The mother entity was suspicious at first. It had existed for billions of years, consuming everything in its path. The concept of mercy was alien to it, but slowly it began to understand. Humans were offering survival without violence, safety without conquest, a chance to exist without destroying others. Why would you do this? The mother entity asked. We have killed so many of your allies. We have threatened your worlds. We are your enemies, because we know what it's like to be monsters, Stone replied. And we know that monsters can change. We've spent our entire history fighting each other, killing each other, destroying each other. But we learned to be better. If we can do it, maybe you can too. The mother entity was silent for a long time. Then it made a decision that shocked the entire galaxy. It surrendered. The surrender wasn't immediate. It took weeks to organize. Captain Okonkwo's special forces deployed to Voidborn territories, not to fight, but to establish containment protocols. Dr. Yamamoto's teams worked with Voidborn biology to create sustainable energy sources. The synthesis negotiated directly with the hive mind, establishing communication protocols and monitoring systems. And slowly, carefully, the Voidborn were moved into designated zones, quarantine areas where they could exist without threatening anyone, where they would be fed, monitored, and given a chance to survive. It wasn't easy. There were incidents. Some Voidborn clusters tried to escape. Some attacked the containment systems. But the humans were patient. They adjusted. They adapted. They showed the same creativity in building peace that they had shown in waging war. 6 months after the surrender, Ambassador Velthan visited Earth. It was the first time any alien had been invited to the human homeworld since the quarantine began. He was terrified. The transport ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, and Velthan pressed his face against the window, expecting to see a militarized world. Weapons everywhere. Soldiers on every corner. A society built for war. Instead, he saw cities full of gardens. People walking in parks. Children playing in streets. Art installations and music venues. It looked peaceful, normal. I don't understand, Velthan said to his escort. Where are your weapons? Where are your defenses? The escort, a young human woman named Lieutenant Chun, smiled. They're hidden. We learned a long time ago that the best defenses are the ones your enemies don't see. But that's not what Earth is about. We don't build our society around war. We build it around life. The weapons are just tools we keep in case we need them. Velthan toured Earth for 3 days. He saw museums dedicated to peace, alongside monuments to war. He saw military academies next to universities studying art and philosophy. He saw a civilization that could build weapons of mass destruction and chose instead to build gardens. On his last day, he visited a Voidborn contact facility. Humans and contained Voidborn were working together, studying each other, learning to coexist. One of the human workers was a young woman named Jamie Torres. Velthan recognized her name from the records. She had lost her entire family when the Voidborn attacked her colony ship. How can you work with them? Velthan asked her. After what they did to your family. Jamie looked at the Voidborn entities contained behind quantum barriers. Because I'm human. We're monsters, remember? We're capable of terrible violence. But we're also capable of terrible mercy. Mercy is harder than violence. It takes more strength. It requires you to see your enemy as something other than evil. She turned to look at Velthan. My parents died because the Voidborn were desperate and scared. If I kill them out of revenge, I'm just continuing the cycle. But if I show them mercy, if I help them find a better way to survive, then maybe my parents' deaths meant something. Belfin had no response. Back at the Galactic Council, the debate about humanity continued. Some members wanted to lift the quarantine completely. Others wanted to keep it in place. Everyone was afraid of what humanity might do next. President Osei addressed the council one final time. "You call this monsters," she said. "And you were right. We are dangerous. We weaponize everything. We prepare for war constantly. We're aggressive, violent, and creative with day.